Well, hello and welcome to Fun Fantasy FPL. My name is Harry, and this time you're going to actually see our faces on the YouTube channels, which you should now all subscribe to. And as you heard last week, we had Tommy C, aka Champ, on our podcast, and you may have heard him refer to this gentleman who's joining me today, Jake. I was given some feedback that no one knows who you are, Jake. So, with 11 years of experience, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell our dear listeners who you are?
I'm Jake. I'm the guy that's beaten Tom for the last 2 years. And I think he's a little bit upset by it because I think he's mentioning me like every 2 minutes on your podcast. So good to come on and reply. Be part of your famous podcast.
Fantastic. Famous it is. I mean, listened all around the world, or at least two other continents. So I'm going to say all around the world. Stephen sadly can't join us. Still hope to have him back next week. But just as a few stats for Jake's game. So last two seasons finished top 7K and top 4K in the world. And in my best ever finish, I managed to beat Jake by 4 points, but he still managed to finish 8K in the world. So there was some silly stats in there really for you and your performance. Would you say that the 4K is the best in terms of an experience, or do you have other seasons that are very remarkable that you look back out and say, yeah, that was a cracking season for us?
Yeah, I mean the 4K is very unlikely. It's unlikely that anyone gets 4K. So I'm pretty happy with that. It was also the first time I won our league. So
Yes.
after several times of coming very close,
Yeah.
i.e. within 1 to 5 points.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big weight off my shoulders winning our league for the first time. And then winning it again was all right.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. Well, the seamstress had to eventually finish up sewing their particular win. And reference to this is essentially, I mean, maybe you want to tell the story, Jake, but it was a couple of seasons ago where you thought you'd won it. You thought you were out and clear. I mean, what was going through your mind at that time? The 2019-2020 season, the COVID season, if I remember
Mm.
rightly.
COVID season. I think I played a good free hit in like game week 28 and it put me 100 points ahead of you. And I
Yeah,
thought 100K is like unassailable.
yeah.
So I said during the week, I've sewn it up. Give me the title now. And then was it game week 34 plus? So obviously
Yeah.
the season stopped and then it started again. So it was game week 34 plus. And I missed the deadline because I was playing football. And I came back to my phone having finished playing football. So I missed the deadline and that Antonio had scored 4 goals. And
Yes,
I
he
thought,
had.
that's fine. I don't think anyone's got Antonio, but you had Antonio.
I did.
You also captained Sterling, who I didn't have.
And
And
he
then
got
later
it. He
in the
got.
day, he got a hat trick.
Yeah.
I think the third goal, someone booted it. He was on the floor and someone
Oh
booted it
yeah.
and it went in. And I
I'd
think
forgotten that.
he gained like 80 points on me in that one in
Yeah.
one day. And
I think by the
then
end of the day, I was on 109 points and you were on 7 or something like that.
yeah, it's the worst day I've ever had and probably ever will have in FPL.
Yeah.
And completely helpless given that I
Yeah.
didn't like meet the deadline. I'm good for missing that. I miss like at least one deadline every year.
Yeah, that's true.
Even in my two last like pretty good years, I'm sure I've missed a deadline in both. It does
Yeah.
happen.
It does happen. Yeah. And I sort of semi missed it this week, but um, not really. I mean, I was umming and ahhing about whether to take out Saka. I hadn't even thought about Son, which shows how much attention I was paying over the international breaks. I thought he was still injured. And I would have put in Johnson, so I'm quite glad I didn't in the end. But missing a deadline's fine. It's sometimes we have been known to over tinker with our teams. I think you were called the Tinker Man at one point, or did you call Tom the Tinker Man? I can't remember.
I was a bit of a tinkerer in the early days before I came fully round to analytics FC and making transfers is
Analyst.
just not good. Um,
Yeah,
if you miss a deadline, you can just say you rolled a transfer though,
yeah,
and you can make it look good. You can style it
yeah.
out.
So for the listeners, we in this league that we're referring to, we'll explain a bit more detail about it later. It's the EVM league. We send screenshots of our teams, and often people will forget to screenshot, but actually what they've done is not done the transfers or rolled and just completely forgotten about it and missed it. But yeah, we'll come on to that. I mean, it's been an interesting game week. I was just saying before we hit the record button, not very many good scores out there. Currently, I'm sitting on 41 points, I believe. And actually, I've got 40 points, sorry, with a rank rise up to about 200,000 places, and I've still got my keeper to go in Dean
Lovely.
Henderson. In a game that's taking place on Monday. We're recording on Sunday night, straight after the Chelsea game, where once again Mo Salah has saved my bacon with a lovely 12-pointer. So yeah, Jake, talk us through your week. How has it been for you? Seemed a decent score for you this week for sure.
It's looking good if I keep them some points. I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit. And miscarriages of justice that have gone on in FPL.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've done very well. Basically because of the Son captaincy. I brought in Vardio as well.
yeah,
So my three transfers, I took Salah out, but I brought
yeah,
in Son.
yeah,
That sort of worked out for me as it stands. I took out Rodgers for Fernandez with that money, which is going to be controversial because obviously everyone loves Rodgers and
yeah.
he's great value. But I just thought Man United penalty taker, they have a good run coming up. He's basically at the center of everything they do, and his data is pretty good. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll get Pelters, and I'll probably deserve it. But yeah, I brought in Fernandez, and he hauled with 5 points.
Yeah, Bruno Fernandes Hall.
Yeah, and then Robertson, I took him out and brought in Gvardiol, and that also worked out quite well for me.
Yeah.
So I think I've been quite fortunate this week. And I also got a lot of bench jam as well because Saka didn't make the squad, and that meant Dunk came on for me, and he got a clean sheet.
That is mental. I didn't even clock that. Wow. Okay. Cool. That's and I noticed. Is it Verbruggen, the Brighton keeper? He got 10 points.
Yeah,
Did he
he's on
have-
my bench as well, but he won't come on because I've got Raya. But I don't regret that decision. I
No,
think
no, no.
Raya was the more likely before. So
Yeah, double
that's
Arsenal
fine.
defense. Um,
Yeah, how do you feel about your week? So you didn't wildcard out of your bad defense, did you? You kept
no,
yeah.
no, and you know someone who has a series has a data tool that sort of tells him roughly players he should pick, and he's hard coded it to not select any Everton players.
Yes,
Um,
I've forgotten who that is, but I remember listening to a podcast where they said exactly that. Yeah, do you know who is it?
I don't know who it is. It wasn't on this
Yeah, mate.
podcast, Jake, so feel insulted already. But I understand the need to hard code it in that way. But I actually started Milenko. Is it Milenko?
Nicola.
The Mikolenko, sorry. Yeah. And he got me 7 points. I've had him all season. He's been a disappointment, as much of Everton's performance has been. But he held on for the clean sheet, even though their game started later. Yeah, so I'm quite happy with it, to be honest. I mean, Lewis Hall, I thought I was unlucky. Justin, I mean, that game was pretty wild. And then Robinson's come on for Saka, who obviously didn't play. Looking at my bench, João Pedro, Saka, and Jan Bednarek, it's not looking that healthy. Flecken's got the 4 points. I think that's another one in the eye for Stephen, who absolutely went for me. The fact I started him, but he's been outscoring Raya in the last 3 game weeks. So I'm pretty happy, even though he's
What
on
was
my
Steve's
bench.
problem? What was Steve's problem with Flecken? Is it
He
what
is,
you started with him in the right at the beginning, or that
yeah.
you've got him now?
I think both. He seemed to think that Flecken just can't be a goalkeeper. But I think he's okay. I think Brentford are a decent team, and he gets a lot of save points, and I've been proved right. I mean, his points have been pretty good. I mean, again, he's on my bench, so to a certain extent, it's why are you shouting about it? But ultimately, it means that I have confidence in him, to keep performing pretty well. I mean, he's I just actually went and looked at it. He's not had a single clean sheet, but it's got 23 points over 8 game weeks. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, it's
It's
not
not
bad.
bad.
Yeah, he's okay. It's just that I think at the beginning of the season, you either shell out on a good keeper,
Yeah.
i.e. Raya, or you just say, okay, I'm going to pay 4.5 for someone who's going to play every week, and they'll probably get some clean sheets if they don't play for a terrible team. And Brentford aren't a terrible team. I agree with Stephen. He doesn't look good on the eye test. He does look a little bit shambolic at times, but he was like a nail keeper for like a mid-table team. Like, yeah, it's a fine. I also started with him, but I wildcarded to Raya.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking about that in my wildcard. I mean, I'm now not entirely sure whether I will wildcard. I mean, a lot of it depends on the Saka news. If he comes back next week for the Newcastle game, is it? I think they're the next game. Um, I I mean, I probably would be tempted to go with him. I think Palmer blanking this week has been really helpful for me. And Nicholas Jackson getting a goal, you know,
Oh, fair
yeah,
play.
yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. Because I think the wild card it would have involved getting rid of Jackson and then going quite cheap at the top, um, and going from there. But I'm quite happy. I mean, it might kick off the wild card a bit further on for me. I might, hold out a little bit longer for it. I know what Tom said about, the banking of transfers being carried over after a wild card makes the wild card less appealing. But if I look at my team, I've got just James Justin at home to Nottingham Forest, and then Fulham and Everton play each other, so I could probably play both those defenders. Um, Maybe I'll get one clean sheet out of them, but then Flecken's got Ipswich at home, so
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
unhappy
it's
with
good set
that.
of fixtures. Are you like enjoying the new rule change where you can like roll all these transfers? Are you a fan?
Well, I've got two transfers now, so I could keep rolling them through. But I am interested in a few of the fixture swings. I mean, Leicester, like I said last week, they've got a pretty good fixture run. I didn't notice Man United's fixture run, but I do like the look of Garnacho as a
Yeah.
player. He could be quite interesting. He sort of scored twice against United. I mean, sorry, against Brentford for United, but so he looked pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I'm a bit in that position of where my conservative manager comes out, where I just don't feel like I need to make a move. So why should I really? Just speaking to that over tinkering that we talked about before, right? Um, it's okay. Like I'm top 700k in the world, progressively getting further up the table, still in the EVM chance of winning the league.
Right. You are
um,
how many shy? About 13, 14?
yeah,
I
something
think.
like that.
Yeah.
It's not far, not
How
far. I
many
mean,
shy?
you're on 508 according to live score, and I'm on 489. So yeah, 13
Oh
points
yeah, yeah. I think that's
or 20. Yeah,
my dunk points off the bench.
exactly right. Exactly right. I sit at third, and Tommy Tommy is only 6 points off you. And he finishes on 37 points, but he does have one more player to play, and that's Eze. Oh, that is huge. Oh God, if
Yeah.
Eze goes off.
Don't know, but I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Well, you
I
just
mean,
hear him laughing.
famous last words. Yeah. How has Rita done this week? Has she had a bad game week yet?
She's yes, our editor and producer. So for those that aren't familiar, our editor and producer, she's been flying. I think it's fair to say flying up the ranks. And then the last 2 weeks, she's had a pretty bad weeks, which have coincided with me, not necessarily being there too much to counsel her, but also every decision I've suggested that she makes has actually made her season worse. So I'm not actually sure whether she'd actually and would like any sort of advice from me. But she's having a similar problem with her defense. Davis, Faust, and Byrne in the back line. And then she has Palmer, Rogers, Salah, Semenyo, who should have scored, and then DCL, who had so many chances. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I've
if you've
heard.
seen the
Yeah, I've not
highlights.
seen it, but I've heard he missed a few big
Oh my
chances.
God, I watched Match of the Day this morning, right? And he should have scored twice. Like, I think it's so unlucky. And then Solanke as well, who yeah, obviously did blanked, but has been doing well of late. But she sits at 535 points. She's top of the mini
Okay.
league for this podcast. I'm not sure where that leaves her overall rank wise. And I don't think she has any other players left to play. In Yeah, no, she has no other players left to go. So, yeah, look, I think she's in a cracking position. I would imagine she's probably in the sort of maybe 100k. Would have thought maybe a bit below.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm confident I can catch her up, and I think now I was confident a couple of weeks ago, and I
mm,
think I've had a couple of good weeks in the last 2 weeks, so I think I'm about 30 off her now.
yeah, something like that. Yeah. So So the disrespect of you saying basically Tommy C is no longer a concern for you
Who?
at all. Who?
Who?
Okay, nice, nice. So that wraps up our kind of review of the week. I think overall the game's been quite interesting, but like I would say non FPL helpful players apart from maybe Mo Salah have actually done anything. I think most people captain Haaland. Um, he hasn't done much. So yeah, it's been a disappointing week, I'd say. Anyway, but yes, so it's been an interesting week because our players that we're thinking about, they're not been performing crazy well. Players that are quite popular. I think Johnson was the most transferred in player of the week. Did 4 goals. He wasn't involved.
Did he get anything? I saw he missed a sitter. I watched the first half. I watched like the first 60 minutes.
Yeah,
He missed a point blank header.
yeah. He. I remember. Obviously, I wasn't there, but he. I did hear that he was playing pretty well, putting in the same positions. I think maybe it's just one of those situations where he was outperforming what he was producing. Um, but good to get the win. I think to settle Spurs fans, we're up to like 7th now. I'm quite happy with where we are. Where West Brom, just as like a brief tangent, how are they doing? The mighty West Bromwich.
So we were top of the league like 4 or 5 game weeks ago, and we've got 1 point on our last 5 games or something like that, something silly. So we're still like 5th. Like we really did have a good start, but yeah, the wheels have come off. We're just a playoff team. We're not going to go up automatics. Our game was on at the same time as the Spurs game, so I was like watching both of them side by side. And we were away at Oxford, and we were all over them, 1-0 up at half time. And then I had to go. I had to leave and go and play on about 60 minutes, and like we'd had another great 15 minutes in the second half. I knew we're not going to win this game. Like we've not put away any of our chances.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I finished football and 90+2 Oxford equalised. So yeah, a little bit frustrating, but
Yeah.
such is the life of a Baggies fan.
Yeah, that is very true. But yeah, okay, cool. Well, back to FPL content, FPL land. So as you heard, Tom had a lot to say. But you are of a similar persuasion, right? You're of the analytics FC, looking at the data. So before you go into a rampant response to Tommy C, why don't you tell us about your process when it comes to building the teams, when you're evaluating players? Let's take Guardiola, for example. He's been playing quite deep most of the majority of the season, but you had him at the beginning of the season, I think.
Yeah, I started with him, yeah.
So what's the motivator for bringing him in, and how do you kind of come to that conclusion?
Oh, it's similar to what Tom says. You're just looking at their expected goal involvement data, their probability of clean sheets, their like the strength of opposition. Like City have got a really good run coming up. So for me, that Guardiola was like a no-brainer. Like compared to like Robertson, because like Liverpool's fixtures turn, they're the same price.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer to get Guardiola in. Yeah, I mean, well, Tom, I think, basically lied last podcast and said that he convinced me. It was very much the other way around. I think I was the one that persuaded Tom into analytics. Like his phrase was FPL is an art, not a science.
Yeah.
And he's now swapped the two words around. And that's because I think he kept getting beat by me and he was sick of it. So he decided to sort himself out.
Straight out the gate with the accusations of liar. Nice. Good. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure he'll be sliding into our DMs very quickly after this is released, with a defense of his position. But I think at this point, his reputation is utterly smashed. But yeah, so and then in terms of as you said, a lot of it's about data and looking at all those sorts of bits and pieces. Are there particular sources that you go to? Is there do you have your own spreadsheet? Like, what's the kind of process that you have? Anyway, it can't be the same as Tom's, exactly, right?
Well, I used to do my own spreadsheets, and I quite quickly realized like there are people that make much better ones than I do.
Yeah.
There's people that think about this much more than I do on a daily basis. So like I think the FPL review like massive data spreadsheet is like
That Ben Crellin's one.
No, it's yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to find it, but
Yeah.
that's where I go to, and I've also got like a one of them optimizers that you can use to sort of plan ahead. Um, that being said, I basically just tweak the options so it gives me what I wanted to do anyway.
Hmm.
Um, so you can like change how many minutes you expect people to play and all that sort of thing, and then it will spit out what it thinks sort of your options are. But yeah, that being said, I rarely just I will never blindly follow it. I'll basically just tweak the options to give me the player that I want to get. Like, having said that, I've just still not been able to justify getting Haaland in. I think he's too expensive.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I think I'm going to go without Haaland next week, and City have got Southampton at home, so that could be an absolute bloodbath for me.
Yeah. Have they got the Champions League in the middle or any other games?
Oh yeah, hopefully someone snaps him in midweek. But otherwise, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain extent it would be easier if he wasn't in the game, right? Because I think he's such a. I mean, City have got a great run, and you bank him to score, but he went through this season, this bit last season, didn't he? Where I think Roy Keane called him a League Two striker, and he has this period where defenders just seem to have his number, and he becomes a focal point for drawing defenders away for other players to score. And so I wonder if that's what's happening again this season, but I'm sure he'll recover from it. I mean,
It's
you
only
know,
two. It's only two blanks, isn't it? Like he was scoring like a hat trick every
yeah,
week, getting, and everyone's like, "Oh, you've got to get him in." And I wasn't like, I mean, he was either going to carry on scoring two or three goals every week, and he's going to have one of them generational like Messi seasons, in which case, like fair play, and maybe I
mm,
would fold in a few weeks' time. At which point, I would have been miles behind everyone else. But like, he's gonna have weeks where he
yeah.
blanks. Like he's
Do, do,
not going to bang every game.
yeah, do you think that maybe like in those situations where you haven't got a player and he's absolutely going mental, I think you have a choice. You either kind of fold early or you just don't go for it at all and you use the money you save from not having this player to buy players that are going to counteract him and cover him as opposed to like so for example, if you have got Haaland and Salah and maybe Saka or Palmer, you probably can't have some of the more fruity midfielders that are doing well, like Son or Bruno Fernandes, people like that. You can't have those. So you must be banking on those more differential players coming through for you and covering the Haaland points, right? Over a season, I mean. That's what
Well,
is
I
that
think I think this year, which is out of line with like the past few years, is that FPL's pricing is really good this time.
mm,
So like making Haaland 15 million like makes him like you can actually ignore him
mm,
because you can use that money on players that the sum of their parts will hopefully do better than Haaland. And well,
mm.
that's what I'm hoping it's gonna
So
he's gonna felt like.
do you not envision just having him at all throughout the season?
It's just I can't get him. Like I've used three transfers this week, and I just couldn't. There was no way I could have made three transfers that would have got me Haaland and like two other good players because I've already
Yeah,
got two dead players on my bench who
yeah,
were worth like no money. So I'd have had to downgrade two decent players to get Haaland in for someone.
yeah.
And for me, it didn't work. Um, yeah. To respond to your previous point, if a player keeps banging every week and everyone's jumping on, at some point you sort of have to go against them anyway because you're going to be so far
Yeah,
behind.
that's the point. That's the point I'm making.
You
Because
actually need a
because if
differential at that point.
yeah, because if at game week 4 you finally bring them in, then you're at the same position as everyone else, except they're maybe 30, 40 points ahead of you. So
Yeah.
is it better to double down if you get to that stage and just go, right, well, I'm going to go and have a cracking 9.0 and a cracking 6.0 and hope that those two players can cover Haaland and then switch it around. I mean, that has to be the better strategy. Or is it the point where, you know, you have to just kind of deal with it and suck it up and hit wild cards early and things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to be said for wildcarding early so you can get onto all these players that are doing really well because like your team value goes up. So like
Yeah.
my team value is not very good because I think like it actually shows you on our live league and my team value is like like a whole million behind Tom's. So like he like that might count for something. come the end, or come
Yeah.
where you need to use transfers and you've got a bit more money to play with. Yeah.
Yeah. No, nice. And I mean, I don't, you have to show me after the pod where you actually look at that, because I didn't know that.
Livefpl.net,
Yeah, that's right.
and
That's
then
right.
like it says there's like a little number underneath people's names. Like I'm on the desktop one. You
Oh yeah,
see
no.
under Tom's name, it's like 101.6.
Oh, on the league part. Okay, yeah, sure. Oh yeah, yeah, one. Yeah, okay, I see it. Yeah, that's quite big actually. I'm 100.9.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm
Um,
100.8.
yeah, no. So, well, no, it's an interesting concept, really, to be honest. Because you may remember 2 seasons ago, I started without Haaland, and I was just saying, "Oh, it's gonna be shit. It's gonna be terrible.
Is
Jesse
that because of
Lingard's
like,
gonna outscore him."
yeah, I mean, you must have known that that was a silly shout. Like you based
Oh,
that
yeah,
all on him like being a little bit wasteful in the Community Shield final. If I
absolutely.
remember correctly, I think he like hit the bar or something, and you basically made this whole narrative about how Haaland's going to be rubbish.
Yes, I did do that.
And yeah, he wasn't rubbish because he was actually quite good in Bundesliga.
Yes, I know. I'm aware that. So, concept the for background listeners, basically what happened was I got really drunk, and for anyone that knows me, that might as well be another day in the week. Um, and I made a claim that Jesse Lingard will outscore Erling Haaland in his first season in the Premier League. Obviously, I was wrong. The good thing was I put a qualifier in there that Jesse Lingard had to play a certain number of games, and he didn't reach that, so I never actually had to do the forfeit, which I think was by maybe Tom a bottle of vodka or a bottle of something. Um, but yes, so I stubbornly didn't start with him, and then when he banged first game against West Ham, 2 goals, and then he did it again. I think the next opposition, I was just absolutely shitting myself. And I think I sat on the fence too long. Like I was too proud to go instantly, and I was too tactical to think long term, how can I survive without him? And so I went in the middle, and I think the middle is the worst place to do it in, because you just don't recover. You can't recover from that, really. Um, so yeah, that shows how much forethought and planning goes into my fantasy teams. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, let's deal with some of the points that Tommy C has come to. This seems to be like a response, and I think Jake, do you have anything, some response to what had Tom has said last episode? I mean, is it just the fact that you're living in his head rent free? Like, what was your thoughts when you were listening to that?
I mean, you have to give me some like specifics because I apart from him claiming the FPL as a science, not an art. Apart from that, really stuck in my head because I know it was wrong. But apart from that, I can't actually remember anything specific that he said about me.
Yeah, I
So
think he said that one of the things he said was going from Tommy C to you was a downgrade in terms of on the podcast, and then getting Steven in was like going mental.
oh yeah, I do remember that. Well, you can look at our rank history and decide for yourself whether that's the case. Yeah, I can let my FPL rank history do the talking for me.
Fantastic, fantastic.
I think he's a little bit upset that I've beaten the last 2 years. Our processes are like reasonably similar, and like he's always a threat because he's like I think he looks at like the bookies stuff like probably a bit more than I do.
Yeah,
Mm. And yeah, it's always a good battle with him. But and
no,
yeah,
good.
but the two of us are the top of the league again.
With me chasing
Only
you.
took 9 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, and we should cover it. So, seeing as we've mentioned it many times, the EVM League. So you've won it twice. I've won it once. For our dear listeners that have no idea what this league is, how would you sum it up? How would you define it? How does it come about? Why don't you take them through the origin stories?
So this is just when we were all living pretty close to each other about
Yeah,
5 or 6 years ago, and so we made this league. We all take it way too seriously. Uh, it's basically just a WhatsApp group where we talk rubbish and organize trips to the pub. We
yeah.
just need to play a bit of fantasy football on the side, but then I think a few of us are like really competitive. So I think like
Few.
well, yeah, like I definitely wouldn't have tried like anywhere near as hard if like Tom didn't try as hard and you didn't try as hard. Like, and it's now got to the point where yeah, it was like basically all I thought about at work all week, and I've really scaled that back this season. I think go like dropping my own spreadsheet and just looking at other people's data is uh definitely more
Yeah.
helpful. It means I'm less annoyed when it doesn't go well.
Yeah. I
Um,
haven't gone full spreadsheet. Well, I have my own spreadsheet, but it doesn't really work in any serious context to yours. It's just more I sort of plan it, look at it, and say, just am I comfortable with that? And then look at like some stat stuff, but nothing crazy. As we know, this podcast is more about the shouts, and the vibes, and the eye test, and things like that. I mean, does the eye test go into any of the planning that you put in, or are you not concerned about that at all?
maybe I think if someone's got like good data, I think I'll probably go for them anyway. I
Hmm.
think the eye test is maybe good if you see that someone's like not got like a very good like XG per game, but
Yeah,
you can see that they've been getting in really good positions and people like not passing them the ball. Things where it's like not going to register on the stats that we look at.
yeah,
I think sometimes you can use that and say, maybe I should, you know, put that player a couple of points higher, or well, a couple of fractions of points higher.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've not actually watched like a lot of football this year. Like when I watched the Spurs and West Brom games like side to side, I was like, this is like the first time I've watched actual live football
Yeah,
for a while. So yeah, I really am just looking at like the data
yeah.
and choosing my team. I think it was like a few years back. There was someone who was top at Christmas and he
And he
hadn't
never
watched
watched the good game. Yeah, I
a
remember.
minute of Premier League football. So it's like
Yeah,
it does show like how good you can be, like not watching some of the stuff. And I also think like sometimes you can watch a game and it can just confuse you. Like a player will miss a couple of chances and it will annoy you, particularly if
mm.
you support the team that they're that
Yeah,
that player plays for, and you'll just like not get that player in. Like Mo Salah used to like really annoy me because like he'd get in so many good positions and miss like a lot of chances
yeah,
in the games I watched. And then I realized like actually his data is pretty good, and he actually, his finishing's not terrible. He's just so good that he gets in these positions more than anyone else does,
yeah,
and
yeah,
hence
yeah,
that's why he's done so well. Um, and that's definitely hurt my a lot of ranks in the past. Is I've not gone
yeah,
for players who have like frustrated me, but actually they've been getting in the right positions, and that eventually they'll come good. I think maybe this comes to like Darwin Nunez, which is a very contentious
Darwin
player,
Nunez. I
and
was going
I've
to ask you about him.
I've had him probably more than anyone else in our league because
Mm.
I enjoy watching him play because he's an absolute shithouse, and like he gets in such good positions and his finishing is like crazily bad. But I can't resist the data that he gets is just
Yeah,
like, yeah, I can't resist. So I've always gone for him, and
yeah.
he's to like a varied success. Sometimes he's done all right. I've definitely sent a lot of voice notes of me singing the Pete Bog Darwin Nunez song. Darwin, Darwin Nunez, in a proper big in a big race, in what they will never lose.
You have done that, yes. To our great enjoyment. And if we can try and share them on our socials with your permission, of course, that would be quite fun.
That could be the Easter egg
Uh,
if you can get it up.
well, that's what she said. Well, to give you more context as to how much of a rogue decision that is, Steven started with Darwin Nunez this year, and we in the when we were talking about football with Stephen before we started this podcast, our general rule was if Stephen backs a player, you put him in your and you take him out of your fantasy team. If Stephen says he's selling a player, you bank him and you buy him.
Maybe Steve and I aren't so different after all.
Well, he's actually right. Maybe not. He has yeah, he has definitely got a very rogue approach to playing fantasy football, but that's why we love him. That's why it's so much fun talking about fantasy football with him, because he'll just come out with things and you'll think, my goodness me, what is your brain doing to come
Yeah,
out with some of these
I
shouts?
definitely felt that on your stag do. So are the pair of you still sticking to your like not being able to pick each other's players? Is that still happening?
Well, so I said to him from the start, I said that's not a good idea, right? But he said he wanted to do it, and then he said he would go a bit more rogue. And I was like, okay, cool, no worries. But now he's got like Palmer, for example. And if I wildcard, there's a good chance, especially from game week 12, I will want Palmer,
So what you're gonna
right?
have to you're gonna make him say you're gonna
No,
skip
exactly,
phone him.
exactly. Yeah,
Sell
exactly,
them
which
off.
is not a reason. So I think we might amend that policy just purely because I think like it's okay if we have the same player. I think it was good that we started with different teams. I think that was fun, and
Yeah,
he
I mean, but
volunteered to be.
yeah, you still picked who you wanted though, right? So he's basically just he's taking the bad end of that deal.
He has, yes, but he wanted the bad end of that deal. I
Yeah,
maintain this.
I know. It's an
Um,
interesting way to play.
yes, it is. It is. But look, I mean, it's all about the fun, right? I mean, this is part of the reason why we started this podcast is mainly because we've been saying we wanted to do it for ages, but also because, both me and Stephen talk an incredible amount of shit about football. I mean, me and you talk about incredible amount of shit. We all do, right? But it's there are so many like podcasts out there that just go so heavy on the data FC that I do kind of believe it could sterilize the game a little bit. Like your man who didn't watch a game, a minute of football up till Christmas and he was top. Great, but like, what enjoyment is he getting out of that game? What enjoyment is he getting out of anything other than some blokes around the world talking about it? I don't know. I'd much rather finish lower and have more fun than than go to that level. But and that's kind of what we were trying to do when we sort of whiteboarded how we wanted to build the pod, and that was one of those ideas that was chucked in there. We said, let's see how it goes. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I think, but. From game week 12, Chelsea look like they've got a really good run. I think me and Stephen have to eat our words about Chelsea. They seem to be doing okay. Um, it's just other teams we have to find to pick on now, I guess. Maybe Man
Yeah, I
United.
would say like your previous point about having fun. Like for me, there's obviously I try and win, and it's fun to win leagues and stuff. But there's nothing better than when we like meet up in the pub and we're
Oh
watching
yeah,
a game, and some of us have got one player, and some of us haven't got that player, and then they either do something or they miss a penalty, and you like celebrating something. Like there's nothing more fun than that for me.
there is,
Um,
yeah. Do you remember and this takes us back to the league, the EVM East Village Memorial League, which is in Stratford for those who don't know. Um, like we went to, I think it was Belushi's in London Bridge. I think it was Arsenal against Brentford, and Brentford
yeah,
won
yeah.
2-0.
First game of the season.
Yeah, and I think was it I think Tommy C went without one of the or went without one of the players that we all had. I think it was Salah maybe or something like that. I remember his face just being so worried the entire time.
Yeah,
But you are right. That's where the enjoyment comes from.
yeah. I feel like if we don't, we always meet up to watch at least like the first game of the season and the last game of the season. Hopefully, there's
Yeah.
like a bit of drama on the final day, and we'll try and find like the odd game in between. I think it's like it's a bit less frequent now because we've all moved away from
Yeah,
Stratford.
true.
But yeah, that's definitely the most fun part of the game is just lording it over your friends when they don't have someone that you do.
Oh yeah, yeah. Rinsing someone else. Yeah. Oh God. This is the reason why we're here. This is why we love it. But the East Village Memorial League has become a pretty competitive league. And I think whilst yes, we do take it all too seriously because each other take it too seriously, it's become a pretty nice tradition. One that has a trophy, one that has an FA Cup nicknamed the DC Cup, and also has a toilet, which I'm currently looking at. And we'll go to the manager of the month of December for reasons that are too long to explain.
Well, given
Um,
that this is our first video podcast, do you want to show the toilet
oh,
to
do
the
you want
new
to
fans?
well, it's
Is
the
it is that
toilets. It's a toilet has also got the baby in it from my stag do, and also some dinosaurs again for reasons. But I'll share it on socials. I'll share it on the socials.
yeah? I
Um,
think that needs to be in the background some way. I think
yeah,
you need to put a shelf up behind that plant. The toilet
I
needs to
tell you
go
what,
there.
if everyone likes and subscribes and shares it and tells every single one of their mates to listen to this podcast and we start to grow, then yes, I will get a proper podcast background with Spurs shirts, Arsenal shirts on one side, the toilet, the trophies everywhere. That'll be the plan. But we need your support, listeners, to make that incredible thing happen.
I think
Um,
you need to get an Antonio shirt, a Sterling shirt.
yeah,
I can't remember what other players robbed me of that title. It's a
is a
Diop.
Diop. But I need it is a Diop when he
What's
was
a
at
Diop?
West Ham.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hard shirt to get.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard, yeah. Who else? Kevin De Bruyne, maybe. But um, yeah, that was it was a cracking season that season. But yeah, look, I mean, it's interesting, and as you said there, and I think this is kind of speaks to what we were talking about. I think there is a really nice balance you can have between the analytics of FPL and also having a good time. There is that balance to be found, and it's about just reminding yourself, even when things go wrong, it's just a game, and it's not going to be the end of the world if things go that way. But before we move on to our final section of the pod, do you have any rogue shouts you want to share? Anyone you've liked the look of that maybe you would change some of the ruling in your data points because of, I don't know, the eye test, or you've seen a nice run, or you've seen positions that they like to get into? Is there any players that are in your mind, in your thoughts that you want to get in?
Um, Nothing comes to mind. Although, did you see that in the Liverpool game, Jota went off injured and Nunez came on?
No, I didn't see that. No.
Um, I mean, I'm pretty attached to Like Solanke, I think is pretty good value for.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think I'd get rid of him, but I would love to put Darwin Nunez back in my team at some point this season.
And
But
then
I'm
you're
not starting at the moment, so that's
yeah.
the problem.
Yeah, Solanke is someone I'm thinking about, to be honest, because I've got Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a good shout. I mean, he was a rogue shout, I think, I would say a few weeks ago.
Nicholas Jackson.
And he's come very good.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people, I mean, I screwed up my first team by having Nkunku in it, thinking he was going to start up front.
I had that as well.
Um, but yeah, Jackson, and he looked pretty good today as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I just think that he's in the front of a team that seems to be creating lots of chances. I didn't watch the Chelsea Liverpool game because I was just around. But I mean, you watched it, didn't you?
Yeah. I watched pretty much the whole game. Yeah, he's just
Yes.
like live wire. He's pretty similar to Nunez in the way that he's like seems to be everywhere. He like gets in great positions.
Hmm.
But he just doesn't look like a really polished player.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, in the last few weeks, he has looked like that sort of
So
player.
he's everywhere, but not effective.
Well, he's affected now.
Yeah. No, exactly. I can't believe he's not got any bonus points as well. I mean, I guess that makes sense if Curtis Jones
He
has
also
gone
gets,
for the winner.
he always gets yellow cards as well.
Yeah.
That really does hamper like any bonus points.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, no, cool. That's good. That's good to know. I mean, look, but we love a rogue shout on this pod. So if you do think of one pussy now in the end, do holler. But we're going to move into the last section of football heritage, which is our question of the week. You may remember last week it was Tommy C asked some obscure question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'm not entirely confident in the entire part of the question because it was so rogue. But Jake, do you have the question to mind? Because I do not.
Wasn't it the only Premier League winner whose name consists only of Roman numerals?
Nice. That
Was
shows
it?
how much you were listening to him because you didn't remember any of the insults, but you remembered the question.
That's actually just because we had a chat before the podcast.
That too. So the answer to that question was Vidic. Of Man United. So well done if you got that. Bad if you googled it and got it. But so this week we're going to do a question around red cards. So there were 3 red cards on Saturday, and I thought that was quite a lot. But then to my surprise, I found out the number of red cards for a record number of red cards in one day is actually significantly more than that. So the question for this week is how many red cards were given out in one Premier League day as a record? So the record number of red cards given out in one day of the Premier League. I can tell you the dates. It was in 2009. So you're thinking that sort of era. And Jamie Carragher was one of them. So again, that another hint for you. So yeah, how many red cards given out in a record number of the day? Please write down your questions in the socials and sort of put the answers in the socials, and by all means like and subscribe with the pod. It'd be great to get your opinions on there. We're getting an average about 50 downloads an episode, so thank you so much for the listening so far. And yeah, hope that it's actually helping in some way. If it's not helping, then I hope you're enjoying yourself at least. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry.
Can I just check? Is it supposed to be the guest that comes up with the question and I've just not done my homework?
I think it might have been. But to be fair, like this section of the week has not been fully fleshed out. I was trying to get a theme in there that was going to be who wants to be a millionaire theme, but then I thought we might get done for some sort of identity rights. Then I started, mimicking that noise, and it just sounds like I'm having a stroke. So it's less. It's not really. Not really in your gift per se to do that, but I thought maybe it'd be helpful. So yeah, well, look, that's pretty much it for us on the pod. So please give us a like, subscribe. We have a YouTube channel now, so please do put some comments in there, hopefully nice ones. And yeah, any recommendations, please fire it out. I'm mentioning it to those people. Jake, I hope you're doing the same. And a huge thanks and shout out to our editor and our top of the league, Rita, who is going to be sorting out this madness that we put together. I feel like sometimes when we finish the pod and I send it to her, it's like I've sent her a polished turd, and she somehow makes it into something.
An unpolished turd.
Oh, an unpolished turd. Yeah, it's just a turd. And somehow she manages to make it sound vaguely interesting. So thank you very much to her. We've been Fun Fantasy FPL. Please give us a like, follow us, and I hope you have a good week. Jake, any final thoughts on the game week going forward?
I would just call on FPL Towers to do the right thing and keep this on assist. Even though that's a shambolic decision and you should never go assist. I quite like them 3 points.
Actually, okay. Yeah, no, that would be definitely one for the FPL gods for Tommy C to moan about. But with that last mention, we've been Fun Fantasy FPL. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah.